Hello and welcome to Daily Records. I am Tommy Burton, and today we're going to be talking about a brand new album. We're going to be talking about Egypt Station by Paul McCartney. This album just came out this year, released on September 7th, 2008. It's the 18th album released by Paul McCartney. This is that's Gone Troppo by George Harrison. Egypt Station by Paul McCartney. This album on Capitol Records, produced by Greg Kurstin. This front album cover that I made a joke about is a painting by Paul McCartney. I think from the late 80s it was based upon. And this was his first #1 album in the United States since 1982's Tug of War. And this was the first album McCartney's done to reach the top of the billboards. I think a lot of it had to do with Paul did a really big push media-wise. He was on James Corden. You've probably seen the clip of him doing the karaoke, carpool karaoke thing. He did a live stream concert. He did a lot of push to promote the album. He was on Fallon. So he went out of his way, I think, to really push this. This is the first time he's done in about 5 years since New, that came out in 2013. It had a single that came out back in June with, it was like a double A-sided single, I Don't Know and Come On To Me. One of the tracks on here, produced by Ryan Tedder, which is the controversial track, For You. Now I want to talk about that for a second because I know that there's been a lot of weigh in on it. I'm just going to point this out because I don't know, and if somebody has, correct me, and I'm not trying to steal anyone's thunder. I just haven't seen or heard it. I grew up in the 80s, a wrestling fan, and there was a wrestler named Rowdy Roddy Piper who was one of my favorites, and he was a heel wrestler, bad guy wrestler. And they put out an album in the 80s called The Wrestling Album, which I had on cassette when I was a kid, and I listened to it a lot. And Rowdy Roddy Piper had a song on there, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can let me know, it was, I think, written and produced by Rick Derringer, Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. I think who had a lot to do with that wrestling album and the music on there. There's a song on there called For Everybody. Now, Rowdy Roddy, being a heel, he did this song, and it was all about how he's been kicked around and beaten up and all that stuff. Well, this is For Everybody, which at the time, a WWF album released to major markets couldn't have a song that said the other word. So it said For Everybody. And he even substituted one of the lyrics of the song is, They Can All Kiss My Trash, which I think is a clever substitution. So they were very naughty about it. But when I first heard about For You, I thought to myself, you know, I've heard this already, and even I would even say an almost more clever version, For Everybody. Anyway, go listen to that song. It's fun. But For You, it's whatever. I get it. I'm not going to get into the controversy about it. It is what it is. As an album, here's the thing. It's nice. It's a fine album. McCartney's having a lot of fun. You can tell he's kind of loose, which I think works well for him. And so it flows very well. There's a good bit of sameness to it. I like a couple of the singles. I Don't Know, Come On To Me. There's a good sort of fun backbeat to those songs. There is another song on here, People Want Peace. It's this thing that I think that is McCartney reaching for the anthem, and so there's moments here. My thing about recent Paul McCartney albums is I think he tries too hard to be hip. And I think this album is no exception. I think sometimes he gets caught in a lot of newer production and things like that. Sometimes I wish he'd just go back to just doing like basic sort of stuff. I think McCartney is fine enough to produce himself. I don't think he has to team up with anybody. I think if there's anything that his later albums suffer from, it's probably the production or lack thereof or too much of it. The Nigel Godrich album that came out about 15 years ago now, almost, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. That's a nice album, and it's nice because I think that Nigel kind of cracked the whip on Paul and didn't let him just do like crappy songs. I won't say these are crappy songs. I mean, the balance is a bad Paul McCartney album is still better than probably my best album. So me being critical of it is you take it with whatever it is. A lot of the more recent McCartney albums, though, when you play them, like to me, they're kind of fun, the first few listens. I'm just curious if I go back to this in about 5-10 years. Check back with me. Hopefully I'm still here. And ask me what I think. Is it an album that I enjoy? I may enjoy it more by then. I may enjoy it less. But, like New is one of those albums I pull out every so often. It's fine. I enjoy it. I don't love it. It just doesn't keep me going or anything, but I don't think it's terrible either. I think the same goes for this. So for whatever it's worth, that's my thoughts on Egypt Station. It's a fine album. It's really good. It's not terrible. I feel like some of the production kills some of the songs, but that's a personal preference. So that's it. So Egypt Station, Paul McCartney, today's Daily Record. What do you think? Comment down below. Follow, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff that I always say. In the meantime, I'll see you all again tomorrow with another Daily Record.